Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Higher Healing Higher Circuits, which is the every first Wednesday of the month. We are really excited to have you join us, and today we have an incredibly powerful conversation. We're going to be discussing, all of us here in the group, about ancestral healing, the power of ancestral healing, what it is, how you can do it, and looking at the different aspects of ancestral healing. How is the influence from the mother, from the father? How do we use that in order to help ourselves progress and understand what we're doing, our purpose here in this current timeline? So I'm going to open up the floor. We're going to introduce ourselves briefly. I'm Geraldine Orozco. I'm a certified hypnotherapist, LMP practitioner, Qigong master, and I'm the owner of Bay Area Meditation. So I'm here to discuss DNA reprogramming and how the ancestral healing is done through DNA reprogramming, as well as how it begins to influence our children, which is really important. So we're going to talk about that too. I'm going to hand it over to Joan.
Hi, I'm Joan Rose Staffman. I'm a dowser, a clairvoyant, and a psychic. And I'm excited about this topic tonight too, because although it comes up in my readings, I certainly need to know more about it. So I'm excited to be here with everyone. Thanks. And I'll call on Tammy.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Tammy Langowski, and you can find me at tammysintuitive.com. I am an intuitive advisor to your questions and areas that you'd like to take a look at. And I do channel some messages from my guides that I post on Tammy's Intuitive Services Instagram and Facebook page. And Julie and I have a Two Psychic Moms, and that's number 2 on YouTube. If you want to check us out, we channel and chat about a variety of topics, and we have some fun with that. So thanks for joining us, and we'll go to Julie.
Thank you, Tammy. Hello, everyone. I'm Julie Hawkins. I am the Biz Psychic. I am an advanced certified Akashic teacher. I am actually a certified trainer of NLP and hypnosis and a variety of change work techniques. I'm also a teacher of ancient Hawaiian Huna and so many other things I hesitate to list. But and I've also been, I started out as a coach over 20 years ago, but I don't actively do that now. So what I do is what I have fun doing, which is giving readings and channeling, and my cat's tail on the way, and I do that with Tammy. And so I actually think this is a very interesting topic, and I look forward to bringing maybe a couple of different perspectives to it tonight. So you can find me at juliehawkins.com, Biz Psychic, and Two Psychic Moms with Tammy. And Bobby.
Hello, everyone. How you doing? My name is Bobby Vasquez. I'm so happy to be here with you. My name is Bobby Vasquez again. I'm a biofield tuner. I shift energy using tuning forks and sound. And I'm also a coach. And that's been a new journey for myself. So I'm really happy to share that with you. And tonight I'll be discussing ancestral patterns and ancestral entanglements that I find within the field that I clear with tuning forks and the information that comes in sometimes within that I can share with people that brings great awareness. Happy to be here with you all. And we'll pass it on to Jill.
Thank you, Bobby. I'm so excited to be here. I'm Jill, and I am a prenatal medium, a dragon master, and an intuitive coach. And I'm so excited about this topic tonight. It's going to be so powerful. Geraldine is going to guide us through some really amazing things, and we're going to learn a lot. We're all excited about learning. And if you are interested in having a reading with me or a session, you can find me at higherhealing.com.
Very good. So I think we got everybody. Well, I am so happy to open this topic. And one of the things that we want to discuss, we have a couple of main topics that we want to talk about ancestral healing, is in discussion of how these patterns begin to show up in our space. And I'd really love to invite Bobby to kind of open the floor for us, because as healers, we do notice that this energy comes in, the ancestral influence, thoughts, programs, and belief systems that influence ourselves and come up we find them in our meditation work and in our other healing, as well as patterns that we find in our lives. So One of the important things that I want to discuss is the vibrational aspect of it. And Bobby will discuss a little bit about that, how he, with his tuning forks, has the ability of tuning in to how this information pops up in your energetic space. And I thought that it was interesting to look at it from the perspective of vibration, because we in the healing, when we sense certain patterns come up, obviously we're expressing those patterns and they give off a vibrational frequency. So go ahead, Bobby. I'll let you take over and share with us how that works.
Okay. When I work with the client, when I'm working on their energy field, their biofield, I break it down into a timeline. So the biofield we look at it 5 to 6 feet around the body, 2 feet above and 2 feet below the feet, above your head. The furthest point away from the body is birth, the gestational period. The information that I receive through a tuning fork, usually in that point, gestational period, so it'd be furthest out away from your body. I'm usually encountering information that takes place when, say, when when they're trying to conceive you, maybe issues that you may be having while they're trying to conceive you, stuff that takes place while you're in mom's belly, stuff that takes place when you were born. So I find this information as a charge, or almost even missing information, or missing energy. I guess you could almost say missing energy, but the vibration is usually depending on maybe the emotion, depending on maybe there was some sadness, maybe there was some anger, maybe there was different emotional charges, and I might hear that, I will feel that in the charge, and I will see where these patterns began, right? These patterns began sometimes, especially as you go along the timeline, you can kind of see where maybe the worry came in, maybe where the anxiety came in, maybe where that anger came in, and you held on to that anger, and soon that anger is now your anger, even though it might have been mom or dad's anger. So now you kind of can't tell whose anger is it. Is it mom, dad's anger? Is it my anger? But you really start seeing all this within the field, at least I do, when I'm working with clients, and you really start seeing where these programs begin. And I really love bringing this awareness to clients so they can have this awareness, which is, I look at it as powerful, the possibility for powerful change, right? When you have this awareness of where this stuff happened, where this stuff came in, you can think differently, you can respond differently, you can come at it differently, as well as with the clearing of the energy, it kind of releases that energy baggage or that stuckness that you may have within there. So it's kind of a dual relationship where I share that with you and you take that awareness out into your life and understand that this programming, that patterns that may have come into your life began at different stages. It began at different points. Maybe they're not necessarily yours. So it's good awareness to bring that to clients. Maybe when they're feeling really stuck, they're feeling like, I just can't seem to get out of this this loop. And then we can kind of see what's creating that loop, what's keeping that loop in place, and what keeps that playing out and playing out. So I definitely see that a lot within the solar plexus as well, because we really see, mom's energy is on the left side of the solar plexus and dad's energy is on the right side of the solar plexus. We see a lot of there's the imbalance of anger on the right side and the imbalance of worry and worriness on the left side for mom's energy. So you can see those imbalances when I work on solar plexuses over time, and I really see that people don't have sometimes the best relationships with mom and dad, or usually if they're encountering some kind of issue, sometimes mom and dad's relationship, especially within the solar plexus, will create a lot of imbalances. What else am I speaking to? The main importance that I'm speaking to in this part of the solar plexus is really seeing also that it can create digestive issues. It can create, I've seen a lot of solar plexus imbalances creating autoimmune disorders, autoimmune diseases that can take place. So when I'm working on those, I'm spending a lot of time working in these areas. Like I could probably even do 3 sessions clearing out this energy and kind of really seeing the patterns that took place over time. I think that's about it so far for now.
So I have a question in regards to when you're identifying these autoimmune diseases that pop up in the space. Do you immediately know that you are tapping into something that comes from the paternal or maternal lineage? Or is it something that is on its own information that you find? Is it a different frequency, or do the frequencies vary when you tap into this
The
information?
frequencies, they sound different and they feel different for me. And it's usually, I don't usually find the autoimmune in the field. It's maybe noise around. A person will come to me with autoimmune situation that they're experiencing, and then as I work into the field, I'll distinguish the noise, where it's coming from, the vibration, your energy versus mom's energy, your anger versus mom's anger, and kind of see what vibration is what I'm picking up on will tell me essentially the story of what's happening or what has happened.
Wow, that is so powerful. Definitely would love to look into that, and I can't wait to work with you, Bobby, personally, to see if what you find in the field. Definitely reach out to Bobby for a session on that to clear the ancestral connections that are there. And I mean, when it comes to doing this healing work, I know that in my work in DNA reprogramming, whenever I'm working with my clients, um, what I find is that my majority of the repetitive patterns that are creating blockages in their lives are repeating the same ancestral programs and belief systems that were inherited from the father and the mother. And one or the other of those lineages are usually more prominent, but what brings us together in these paternal unions is usually a resonance, and that resonance is a shared belief system. So even though we might think that our partner is the opposite of us, there is a mirrored thought form, a mirrored program that is shared between the two partners. And that union is what informs the products that will be coming from that union. So that means the children. And the children will usually inherit some form. Sometimes it's often a magnified form of that belief system. So sometimes it will be embodied as an illness in the child, or for example, they will develop an illness or imbalance, emotional imbalance on the other scale of the extreme if there was tremendous suppression within the ancestral lineage. So these are all things that really tend to come up. And before I go deeper into these topics, I'd love to open the floor for Jill to talk precisely about the aspect of guilt, which seems to be a very important aspect when we're healing these kinds of ancestral belief systems. So, Jill, you want to jump in?
Absolutely. So I loved everything Bobby was saying. That was so cool. It sounds like it would be so amazing to have a energy healing with him. So I think what I just really want to speak to, I don't do a lot of work with ants, the ancestors and all of that. I get guided by the ancestors a lot, my own and from my clients. But what I really want to speak to is there's things that keep us from wanting to embrace our heritage, and so often that can be guilt sometimes around what happened in our family lineage. Even if it was long before you were born, a couple generations before you were born, there can be so much guilt that's harbored around what went on, what your ancestors did maybe to the world or to other people. And that, either consciously or subconsciously, that's one area where healing can be so very, very beneficial. And working with somebody to get to the point of not really forgiveness, but just letting things go, because everything happens the way it's supposed to, as Julie was mentioning to us before we were on the call. And it's so easy to sit in judgment where we don't know what was going on way back then. And oh my gosh, if you believe in reincarnation, it could have been you, for God's sake. So it's embracing just that history is what it is, and these feelings could be lingering, these this mess could be left inside of us from this being sent down, this vibrational chaos that's living within us. And when we can do that healing work around it, we can be better from this generation forward and start making those amazing changes that should be made now towards the positive. And another benefit to hold on to is when you're doing this work is anytime you do any spiritual healing, other entities and are being healed at the same time that we don't even know about. Healing just spreads. I think that's the best way that I can put it. So when we do our healing around our family, other families can be listening in and vibrationally be a part of that. And the healing can go through to many, many, many people. So I just really encourage you to not just embrace who you are, but embrace where you came from and the unconditional love that should not only be sent forward for your lineage, but backwards too, to all the people that came before you in your family. And I think my other thing that I'd really like to speak to, Geraldine, is a lot of times you mentioned disease, and so often somebody will say, oh, well, there's cancer in my family, or there's diabetes in my family, and they own that. And if you're telling yourself that over and over again, and you're completely accepting the fact that that's just the way life is, and you're probably going to get it too, it doesn't have to be that way. And when we do that work around our health and our mindset, it's not just DNA we're talking about. There's so much else involved here around our molecular structure and the energy in our body and how we're vibrating. So I just challenge everybody, if there's something negative in your family history that you don't want to be a part of, don't own that. Don't accept it. Find the way to do the work to stop it. It can be done.
Absolutely. And I love that you brought that up. And we're going to do a little meditation in a little bit about how we can begin to work with some of that information so that we can begin to change our vibrational frequency and create an environment in the physical body that is not in alignment with illness. And it really, really speaks to everything that we're doing, the emotions that we're feeling, the intentions that we have, the habits that we have in our life. Most people that are incarnating right now into this bloodline, most people that are incarnating through these last couple of generations are really here to end a lot of really toxic patterns of behavior that have really created destructive patterns globally for our human race. And even though we're here to experience duality on either side, the idea is that as an individual organism, as a part of a whole, when we bring ourselves into a state of healing, wellness, and vitality, we can affect the network, which we, of course, are interconnected with. I'm going to pass it on to Julie.
Thank you, Geraldine. It's a juicy topic for sure, um, which they all are. They're all juicy topics, right? So a couple things came up for me, which is, when Bobby talked about noise, which given the sound healing work that you do, it didn't surprise me that that came up. And what happens with the things that are passed down to us from our ancestors, almost exquisitely, predominantly, and really almost always unconsciously, it can just become, you can learn to have it just be noise and just turn down the noise and see what's happening in a different way, or hear what's happening in a different way. So I want to share a little story, and how it impacts everybody we know, right? I recently went on a vacation. I went to see I went to see friends and family in Hawaii. And I spent some time, I took my sister with me, and I spent a lot of time with her. And we did something, and something that she said or did just triggered me big time. And I wanted her really to just shut up, you know? And, um, and I realized later that when we talked about it much later, that it was really just a trigger from my childhood. Can we say ancestral pattern, right? Something that's handed down. And then another one that came up during the same vacation was something that I got triggered with my daughter and my sister. There's your family, your ancestral ties right there, right? And when my daughter asked me, both, by the way, are licensed clinical professionals, mental health professionals. When my daughter asked me, so what is going on for you right at this moment that this is happening? And I said, well, I feel this. And then just voicing it, I realized it took a lot of the power out of it. It wasn't really true. It was just an old ancestral pattern. So having the gift of consciousness and being willing to be aware of these things and maybe look at them in a different way as, well, that happened then, but it's not really happening now. It's just an echo of an ancestral relationship, that we can change those things and really feel so much better about who we are and what we do and the relationships that we have. And so that's my invitation to you, is to look at those things that get you triggered from the ancestral relationships that you have, and ask yourself, what is that really about, and how can I look at that or hear that or feel that differently? So I will turn that over to Joan.
Well, this has been a great topic so far. Being a psychic, after years of dowsing, I started hearing voices from the other side. And I totally came to the realization that when people pass or die on Earth, that they are they are on the other side and they are still available. And so you can communicate with them. And so a lot of what I do is communicate, especially when people have loved ones who pass. And recently I've had several, it's been kind of a little bit of, it's been sad that there's been several of my clients had their children pass from overdoses. And you can imagine parents are in total grief, because these are young people who took an overdose and then they're on the other side. And what I love is when I work with these clients and when I see these young people, oftentimes they went to 12-step programs on Earth, and when they go to the other side, they go to 12-step programs on the other side too. And and it's always reassuring to the parents that their loved ones really have not died. And I know there's a lot of programs, some really fantastic programs of helping grieving parents realize that their loved ones are still available to them. And so there's a lot of different ways to communicate. The other thing I wanted to mention, that when my late husband passed, he had a year and a half of traditional medicine and alternative medicine. We tried everything. But when he passed, he needed clearing. He needed healing on the other side to get over, the radiation treatments and chemotherapy and things like that. So with the method I use, dowsing and the pendulum, you're able, and also a chart system, spiritual response therapy and my own intuitive charts, you're able to kind of pinpoint what needs clearing and what needs healing. And so when it happened, I was really surprised because I was new to doing this. And my late husband asked me to clear him. And of course, um, I was so happy to be able to do something for him. So for anyone suffering from the loss of a loved one, it can be amazing to communicate with people on the other side. Recently, I think I mentioned this last time, I communicated with my mom and dad. And my mom was painting, which was just fabulous. And she kind of showed me her art studio. And then my dad was in architectural school. So he was a builder, but he never had any formal training. So it can be so healing, we also, I want to mention that I came from I had a wonderful family, and we had dysfunction and alcoholism in my family. So over the years, I've done a lot of healing in that. And I have felt that my mom and dad have also healed. And I, of course, have worked on my children to ensure that they don't have the same, they don't take, they don't um, have those problems also, my adult children. So I do a lot of just clearing in that realm of addiction. And I always refer people to 12-step programs too, because that can be awfully healing. So it was kind of interesting. I thought with this topic, there's so much to learn. And um, then I just want to mention one more thing is that 2 years ago, I found, it was so amazing, on my sister's shelf, I found a memoir of my grandmother's family. And I found out that there had been slavery in my family. And I was really devastated by this fact. I don't know why. I think I was a little bit in denial because I knew the family was from the South, Um, but I think I'm going to do some ancestral work on that, and some forgiveness work. And then the other thing I found out in the memoir was that my grandfather had visited a Blackfeet reservation in the 1910s, and that he had become part of the tribe. They had inducted him into their tribe. And I mean, this is the same family, So I thought, you find out these positive things about your family, and some things that definitely need healing. But we can do this, very special work with the help of psychics and healers, and also I believe in books too. I read this great book this week. It's called Ancestral Medicine by Daniel Four. And just reading the book, I felt like I've had a little bit of healing about my family. So I really urge everyone to, if you're drawn to this work, I think it can really be powerful for you. So thanks so much. And I'll hand it back. Tammy, I know you said that
Yeah,
in your psychic healings, you do some of this work also.
yeah. Thank you, Joan. Yeah. And I was just going to say, I could, echo some of what you were saying. I was interested in this subject tonight myself. Who of us probably could use some ancestral healing, right? Yeah. And so I'm here kind of just to hold space and all, but I want to echo something that Joan had said. And definitely I find that in my sessions and readings, especially when I'm connecting to those loved ones on the other side, it's a bit, it's a lot of what Joan was saying there, but I do find that there is tremendous healing that can happen from just making that connection for somebody. And sometimes just a simple apologies from those on the other side that own it, recognize what they did, can be honestly life-changing for some, whether it's from me having a session or any of us. I just say it really is really amazing. So there are a lot of different modalities. Ancestral healing takes place as soon as you are willing to release it. That was just what my guides dropped in. I think there's not much more I need to say than that. But I think there is a lot of truth in that. So when you're ready to start releasing it, then that's when the healing begins. So it's a fair question to ask yourself, how ready am I? I don't have to hold on to, like everybody's mentioned here, it's not something we have to hold on to. So it's really kind of a decision that you make, love for yourself, in, releasing some of this, I'm going to say, baggage from the past, and honoring the great things that were there as well, the things that made you who you are, and maybe spending a little bit more time with that as well. So I'm enjoying this so far, and I'm a bit of a student sitting here, so I'm loving it. So I'll go back to you, Geraldine.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for all these wonderful, insightful messages regarding this topic. And what I'd like to dive into now is a meditation so that we can kind of begin to do some of this work. And I will begin by introducing the concept of why we're going to do the meditation that we're doing in regards to the ancestral integration. We decided to discuss this topic because last time we talked about being in between, we talked about mediumship, we talked about how unsuccessful death can often trap the soul, a fragment of the soul in the spaces in between dimensions, because there is fear at the time of death, which doesn't allow the complete integration and that centrifugal pull of the light, of the vortex of the soul, this essence, to move through from the material into the energetic. And so when there is that blockage of a low vibrational frequency, the essence cannot move through this vessel of the body and enter into the higher dimensional planes of higher levels beyond the physical dimension. And so it becomes trapped in between. And so what that means is that if there is such thing as an unsuccessful death, this speaks to the laws of creation and how we are working with frequencies, how energy really is the expression of whether something will manifest and move through whatever evolutionary process it's going through, whether it's our life from birth to death, or whether it's the collective work of the human race moving into ascension or another level of awareness of existence. And so when we talk about our ancestors, energy and life force is distributed among all of these different entities and fractals of consciousness in that same way. Everything is grouped together in the universe, as we see in our nature, as we see in the way that physics operates in different phases and expressions of physics. We see how energy is never disappearing, but transferring, moving, changing, adapting, transforming. And so we are very much proponents of that same law of exchange when it comes to energy and information. So in our current lifetime, we are living through these kinds of patterns of experiences and behavior. And we are experiencing everything from positive experiences to negative experiences, here to experience all the rainbow ranges of duality. When we are looking at those expressions within our life, we tend to look back at the experiences that have informed our behaviors. And those experiences are usually programmed within the human between the womb until the age of 7 is when we become programmed. And this is when we are deeply, deeply influenced by our surroundings, by what our father and our mother are doing or not doing. And the father and the mother are an expression of divine feminine and masculine. Within these two energies of what we are feeling, this is our introduction to the feminine and masculine creative energies. So, whatever they're doing in our life is how we are going to perceive those energies and how we embody them within our physical body, which is why when through vibrational healing, we tap into these vibrations that are different, that are showing us. For example, Bobby was discussing earlier how there is, for example, anger, and he can access that information all the way back to the womb. If you were to regress yourself back to the womb and notice the emotions that are coming up at that time, you begin to notice which emotions belong to you, which emotions belong to your mother, your father. and they create profound programs on how you develop your divine feminine and your divine masculine. So, in my opinion, this work is actually the most important thing that we need to do in order to have success in all areas of our lives, whether it's our relationships, whether it's our career, whether it's the way our health. All is a fractal representation of the divine feminine and masculine. The physical body itself, the right is the masculine, the left is the feminine. When any of these two sides, these energies are out of balance in the body, it creates resistance and disturbance and imbalance within the physical flow. The meridian bodies are not flowing life force through the body because there are blockages within any of the energy centers in the body. And the energy centers are expressed and holographically uh, magnified in our environment. They are also the antennas that process the experiences that we have. And so we store this information in every single one of the chakra systems. And this is what writes the code, our divine blueprint, our code of who we are. It is responding to the code that is within us, which we have chosen to come into when we come into this lifetime, this family that we've incarnated to. We incarnate into the family because we are in resonance with that vibrational frequency, because there are lessons that our higher soul has agreed to go through the experiences that this family will provide. So imagine that. Imagine how incredibly beautiful and balanced all of this distribution of consciousness is around our earth. So when you look at it from that perspective, sometimes even the most horrific experiences that we humans go through are meant for the purpose of the transmutation of that experience from the lower frequency into a higher frequency. And we have the option through our free will in order to experience that transformation if we wish to do so. And if we do not wish to do so, we abide by the laws of the celestial movements of the energy bodies and what happens as a result. And oftentimes, when we have a terrible life and haven't had the time to integrate and process that pain and suffering, we end up on the deathbed with an inability to process into death in a proper manner. Okay? So the idea is that we do the work so that we can reintegrate that suffering, that pain, heal it, understand it. We understand it by changing the perspective and the meaning that is applied through the suffering of those experiences. That's how we reintegrate fragments of ourselves. Every time that we experience a moment in which we feel helpless, fragmentation is occurring. It's occurring at the soul level and the energetic level. And the fragment of yourself in that moment is left suspended in that timeline. So it will be a reference point to which you'll always go back to at every time. So, what we want to do is whenever we are triggered by something similar to that, for example, Julie was talking about that trigger that came up. There is access through the subconscious mind, the reference point to that moment. So, in order to um, experience things without being in a constant state of resistance to everything that comes up and suffering and pain, if we neutralize these reference points by understanding, by broadening our perspective of those experiences, that vibrational frequency of that reference point changes and the fragment of our soul is reintegrated. However, you're not only accessing your information, but whoever is involved in that experience, mother, father, aunts, uncles, friends, classmates, whoever is involved in that experience is also experiencing a transformation of understanding. And they do so through the network of interconnectedness that we are because we are one organism. So we are affecting every single person that is interconnected in those experiences. This is how healing occurs. And it's not that they're going to, completely remember, maybe they live on another continent and you're doing a healing with this person. However, they will feel it either in dream time or the subconscious mind. And how I know this is after working with hundreds of people. When I do cutting cords and energy work with people, for example, their family members, like their children, ex partners, somehow when they cut those cords, they will receive a call or a message, or they will have ran into them accidentally. There will be a connection in which it is clearing and neutralizing that old program. So this is how powerful we are expressed in this universe, and how our presence and the work that we do is valuable to the collective. So, what we're going to do in today's meditation is we're going to access, just through our everyday emotions, let's say the emotions that we're feeling today, some of these patterns that we're running into, and access the ancestors that are connected to those programs. We're going to allow healing by showing, asking them what is it that they require in order for their healing, because our ancestors are fragments of ourself. We are not separate. They are fragments of ourselves. They are mirroring, and we within the body are expressing any kind of programs that have not been resolved within the lineage are always going to resurface in the next generation. That means our children, by the way. So if you do that work, your child is also changing and feeling your vibrational frequency, who is changing in frequency. It is incredibly powerful. So let's get started without further ado. We're going to start by inhaling deeply and exhaling. Just taking a moment to observe the body, any sensations in the body and emotions that might be coming up. Just sitting in the stillness and observing the body, relaxing the muscles starting at the toes, the ankles, the shins, the calf, bringing total awareness to every muscle in the body. And just noticing and observing if those muscles, as they relax, they release some information for you, emotions that were trapped in that space, thoughts. And for this part, we're just going to return our attention to our breath, bringing ourselves back in a state of neutrality, simply observing anything that arises as we scan the body, going up into the knees, going up into the thighs, going up into the base of the spine, feeling ourselves sink deeper into the chair or wherever we're seated. Inhaling deeply into the base of the spine, going up into the solar plexus. And here within the center core of the body is where we tend to hold on to the majority of our emotions. So just noticing what we're storing there as we begin to release any tension in the back muscles, going up into the chest, to the shoulders, arms, the palms of the hands, breathing, allowing yourself to release your day, release any thoughts, and bringing yourself back into the state of complete neutrality and observation. Going up into the head, into the face, releasing the brow, the cheekbones, the jaw, breathing. And as you deepen your awareness, connecting with now the whole body, connecting with the whole body. And as we connect with the whole body, I want you to visualize creating a sphere around you, a little cocoon. And as you're inside this cocoon, perhaps the senses become a little heightened. You begin to notice what you're smelling, what you're hearing, what you're sensing around you. And as you heighten those senses, I want you to begin to take a look at your day. What are the emotions that you most came into today? Take a look at that. With every breath you take, as you inhale and exhale, just noticing the emotions that came up today. And they'll be pretty prominent because you're going to feel tension in some muscles in the body. So go ahead and go to those muscles that are tense, that tense up as we request this. And tap into that tension and to the emotions in that space. And go ahead and ask yourself, what is the emotion? Go ahead and allow yourself to identify the strongest emotion of your day. Breathing deeply. Let's allow that emotion to come up now. Being absolutely present with this emotion at this moment. And as we're present with this emotion, beginning to notice what is inside this emotion, what emotions are behind this emotion, what are emotions are underneath it. Notice that. From those emotions that you've identified, notice how the first emotion begins to expand and then dissipate. And now you have another emotion that is the strongest emotion of this new list. Go ahead and follow the strongest of those secondary emotions. What is it? As you bring up that secondary emotion present in this space, be absolutely present with that emotion. And I want you to notice that sometimes feels really uncomfortable. Different parts of the body begin to respond to this emotion, sometimes tense up, sometimes feel pain, buzzing, vibrations around the body. So, this is how your body is expressing to you that it's storing this for a really, really long time. So I want you to begin to notice, when was the very last time that you felt this emotion? Go ahead and notice that. Go ahead and see yourself in that event as you see it as if you're watching a movie of yourself on a screen, observing. Watch yourself. What are you feeling in that moment? Identify what you feel as you watch this experience. Taking a nice deep breath as you identify what you're feeling. Take yourself back to the very first time in your life that you experienced this. Take yourself back. You can go as far back as the womb. You can even go as far back as another life. Go ahead and just tap in whatever comes up to you without resistance. Allow the memories to just come in. And if you feel that you've felt that emotion so many times in your life that you can't pick one event, imagine that you're looking at all of yourselves experiencing that emotion. How many of there are you? How many memories are there? Or perhaps it's just one. Take a look at who you're with. Who is around you? Notice if it's a woman or a man, a boy or a girl. And begin to look at yourself in that moment. What is it that you were feeling? What caused you to feel that way in this interaction? What is it that you need from this person, whoever it is, in order to not feel the way that you are feeling? And as you're observing this, I want you to look at that other person now in front of you. If it can be one or more people, we're going to tap into our highest self to show us the highest truth. Observing this person, what is it that they need in order to not behave the way that they behave? Observe them, not from a place of judgment, but from a place of neutrality. Does this person possess the tools that they require in order to not behave this way? And as you observe that, I want you to remote view this person's lineages. As you begin to look above, you're going to see cords coming from the back of the bodies of these beings in front of you, going all the way back their ancestral lineage. Just watch it unfold. Notice how, as a result of cause and effect, this person behaves the way that they do. Breathing deeply. Notice how, in our current life, how do we behave similarly? Do we sometimes enact similar fears, similar doubts? Go ahead and see the cord that connects you to them now. Where on your body is that cord? Notice if it's connected to more than one of the organs, more in one of the energy centers, chakras. And as you watch this cord, follow that cord connecting to them and to the ancestors. And before you comes a crowd of ancestors. All of the ancestors that are following this lineage are now coming forth. Take a look at them. Observe these ancestors. What is it that they need in order to embody their highest expression? Take a look at that. And as you observe that, I want you to bring down from source everything that they require. Give it to them. Surround them in a golden sphere of light. They are fragments of our own self. This is you, and you are them. Watch them transform as they receive what they need. As you see them merge into one, they begin to ascend up into the white light above, source. Go ahead and visualize that the cords that are connected to you and them are the repetitive programs of pain, suffering, and resistance that we are embodying. And if you feel that you're ready to let that go ahead and visualize cutting those cords on their end and releasing them from your body. I want you to pull them out. And as you pull them out, I want you to look at those cords in your body. What do they look like? What do they look like? What are they releasing? From what organs do they release from? From what energy centers are they releasing? All of this is valuable information. Visualize that you're letting that go, throwing it into that vortex of white light before you. That vortex that holds unconditional love, where all of these things can find a source much greater, much infinite than just this body. As you are releasing, inhale deeply, taking back your life force into your body. And exhale, releasing anything that we took on that now no longer serves us. See those ancestors transformed, leaving our space. I want you to go back to yourself here, your child self or this former self. I want you to ask yourself, what is it that you needed in order to come into your highest expression? Bringing down from source everything you need. I want you to surround this former self with this light, with everything they need. It could be love, it could be self acceptance, forgiveness, whatever it is. Watch how yourself transforms with this new understanding. And as you see yourself healing and transforming, perhaps you see many versions of yourself that are healing and transforming throughout your life. I want you to see them merging into one self in front of you. What's different with you? Take a look at yourself. What has changed? Visualize that you will absorb this new self into your body as it belongs to you. This is who you are. As you inhale deeply, integrate that fully into the body, 7 layers in, 7 layers out, all charges down to 0, negative infinite. As you have just reintegrated fragments of yourself. Letting go of all of these memories of the past. Check and see if there's any other aspects of yourself, maybe more present day aspects of yourself that require healing and understanding. Noticing the patterns that we are enacting in our current life, that we are adapting from these lineages. What do we need in order to no longer feel that we need to enact them? Give yourself that. Breathing deeply. Very good. And as you tap into a color of a vibrational frequency that represents healing, that represents forgiveness and completion for yourself, what color is that? Go ahead and visualize surrounding yourself in that color, feeding every cell in your body as it absorbs into the pores, the flesh, the muscles, the bones, down to the cellular level of the body, directing that energy to the areas of the body that need more love, more attention. And in particular, any emotions in the body that we still have, we release it and replace it with this new energy, this new feeling. Tapping into joy. Very good. Go ahead and bring yourself back into the room. And as you open your eyes, visualize yourself being grounded, protected in your space. And we're just going to come back into the room now as you allow yourself to come back into the room. And I'd love to connect with everyone briefly. If anybody has any comments they'd like to share about what they saw or what they experienced about their ancestors, if they were able to see some repetitive patterns that came up, please feel free to comment.
Hi again. Uh, I mentioned that I had found out that my grandfather, a great great grandfather, had owned slaves. And
Wow.
I asked for healing around that issue. And it was interesting that it kind of makes me cry that I had both, my family, but I also had Black families in the circle. And it was very beautiful, but I want to do even more work on that. And I don't know, it really touched me to go so deep. Thank you so much, Geraldine, for that healing. That was just really incredible. Thank you.
Wow, that's amazing. How powerful that those parts came up. And so even those families, even when we don't know the people that are there, they're there because they're a part of us. They're all actually a reflection. Again, this is another way of seeing how we are in resonance with one another, even strangers on the street. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Anybody else want to share their experience? All right. Jill, did you want to share?
Yeah, it was interesting. I have a guide past life horse, I've never had a horse in this life, Barnaby, but I have a horse that's with me, and I didn't really know what life he's never really shown me when we were together actually incarnated, and this took me back there because I was feeling frustration today around some things with my animals and helping one of my animals, and I was taken all the way back to a life where Barnaby was shot and I wasn't allowed by my father to go out and bring my horse in so that he would be saved. And so I was able to do a lot of work around
Wow.
not being allowed to do my job of
Oh,
taking care of my animal. And what I
amazing.
needed to, in order to be allowed to do that, what he needed, especially from my mother, to allow me to do my job to take care of my animal. So it was very
Wow.
powerful. Thank you.
That's amazing. Yes, very interesting. And it can be something so simple like that, like having permission to do those things that we need to do. Very good. Anybody else want to share?
Mine was so personal. I can't really I can't really
No
share
problem. No
it.
problem. No
Otherwise I
problem.
would. But it felt really good.
Yeah.
It was wonderful, and it was very helpful, and just kind of wrapped some significant people in light, and
Mm,
so some things came up for me that made sense. So just
mm,
fortunately it's
interesting.
something so so close. I can't really share it, but it was
Very good.
wonderful. Thank you for that.
Very good.
I enjoyed the instruction to removing the cords and actually even partaking in that, and the
Mm,
color and the feelings of heat that I was feeling with the removal was really, it was something that I was maybe not really experienced like that before, where where was actually finding the chords within self, and with different heat transfers, and actually, and then but it was also being filled in with a certain color vibration patterns, so it was different. It was
that
really cool. Thank you.
that's amazing, Bobby. And I'm glad you brought that up because one of the incredible things that I've found in this work is that, well, let me ask you, what did the chords look like for you when you were
uh,
pulling them out? Do you remember what they looked
it
like?
was, it was something like you'd see in a movie. I don't know, and I'm not sure if that was just my head filling it in, but it was something like that you would see kind of in a that's the closest thing that I could describe it, or bring it to,
So
like.
what kind of like what did they look like when they were coming out? Was it like what was it?
um it was, it felt kind of like a dangly string but alive,
Yeah.
in
Okay.
that way, right?
Yeah.
And there
So
was a lot of heat around it. There was like a lot of heat, that I noticed.
So the amazing thing, and it never ceases to just blow my mind, is that after working with so many people, everyone sees the entities the same way. And these people never have done this work before. Some people have never heard about this kind of work before. And they always see these chords with strings, and it looks like, I don't know, like roots or like octopus. Octopus, I get a lot. It's very interesting. So it really means that we're tapping into information that collectively we experience removing attachments in this way. So I think that's very interesting. So I love that you brought that up. Well, thank you so much, guys, for participating in this and doing this work. If there are any questions, I'm going to check out really quickly the chat room to see if there are any questions. And I want to thank all of you so much for joining us today. LB Ledesma, Alexander, thank you so much for being here today. We did an amazing session, hypnotherapy session with Alex today, and it was just mind blowing. So thanks for checking this out today. Paula, thank you so much. Daniel Floor, that's right. I do know him as well. He's really great at this ancestral stuff. Alexander, Joan, how wonderful that you met Paula. Prophet, amazing. Albert Ledesma says, Ancestral. I use the term heritage trauma when addressing this topic. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Uh, Crystal, I love your name. Says like fire. It felt like fire. Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. Well, I want to thank all of you so much for coming and joining us to do this work today. And please join us in our next upcoming group that we will be doing a workshop. And that is the 19th, June 19th. So we will see you here, and we will post about that event upcoming on the Higher Healing page. Please do reach out to any of these incredible healers, please, on our Higher Healing website. We have incredible variety of healing modalities that you can check out, and all of these are excellent, excellent healers. So we will see you then. Much love to everybody. Have an incredible week.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.